What if everything you've been told about your life's purpose is wrong? I want you to really think about that, because for the longest time, I did. People always talk about destiny, about divine calling, about being chosen. But how do you know if any of that is real? How do you separate truth from illusion? I used to believe that life was just a series of random events, no higher purpose, no greater meaning, just chance and circumstance. But then something started happening. Things I couldn't explain, moments that felt too intentional to be coincidence, a deep restlessness inside me, an urgency I couldn't shake. And I started to wonder, what if I was wrong? Maybe you've felt it too. That feeling that you don't quite fit in with the world around you. That strange sensation that you are meant for something more, even if you can't fully define what it is. If you're here reading this, I need you to understand something. Nothing happens by accident. I don't say this lightly because I was never the kind of person to believe things just because someone told me to. I needed proof. I needed undeniable signs, not just words, but evidence. And that's exactly what I found. There are 7 signs that separate ordinary people from those who are marked by God. These aren't the kind of signs you'll hear about in a Sunday sermon or from a self-proclaimed guru. These are real, raw, unmistakable. And once you recognize them, you can't unsee them. But before we dive in, I want you to do something. If you've ever felt like life has been trying to tell you something, drop 777 in the comments. Maybe you've been seeing repeating numbers, 111, 333, 555. Maybe you've been having dreams you can't explain. Maybe you've been drawn to place, people, or ideas that don't make sense on the surface. If that's you, let me know, because I want to see how many of us are waking up right now. And if you're skeptical, if you think this is all just another empty theory, then I challenge you to stay. Read this with an open mind, because I was just like you, and what I discovered changed everything. These 7 signs aren't about religion. They're not about trying to impress the world or checking off some spiritual checklist. They are evidence that something is happening inside you. Evidence that you are not like everyone else. Evidence that you have been set apart for a reason you might not fully understand yet. So let's go there. Let's talk about the things that no one else wants to talk about. Because once you see the truth, you can't go back. And if you're still reading this, maybe, just maybe, you weren't meant to. Sign. Bhakti, a hunger for truth and the undeniable pull of something greater. At first, it's subtle, a quiet restlessness, a feeling that the answers you've accepted all your life aren't enough anymore. The explanations that once made sense now feel empty. The opinions of the world, the trends, the distractions, they no longer satisfy you the way they used to. But then, something shifts. That small whisper turns into a relentless pull, an urgency deep inside you. You can't ignore it anymore. At night, your mind won't stop questioning. In moments of silence, you feel it pressing on you. There is more than what the world has told you, more than what you've been conditioned to believe. And no matter how much you try to push it away, it keeps coming back. What if there is truth? Real, unshakable, undeniable truth. And what if you've been blind to it all along? This is not mere curiosity. This is something deeper. This is a hunger that doesn't come from you, but from something greater than yourself. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Matthew 5:6. If you've felt this hunger, then listen to me carefully. You are not imagining things. This is one of the first signs that God has marked you. He is awakening something inside you that cannot be satisfied by anything of this world. The temporary pleasures, the distractions, the surface-level answers, they will all start to feel meaningless in comparison to what He is revealing to you. And this is where everything starts to change. When the hunger grows, nothing looks the same. Have you noticed it? The things that once felt normal now seem empty. The conversations that used to excite you now feel trivial. The entertainment, the distractions, the noise of the world, it no longer holds the same appeal. And then there's scripture. Maybe you used to skim over it, or maybe it never made sense to you before. But now it's like every verse is speaking directly to you. The words leap off the page, answering questions you haven't even spoken out loud. How is that possible? The unfolding of your words gives light. It imparts understanding to the simple. Psalm 119, 130. This is not coincidence. This is God calling you deeper. And as this hunger grows, something even more radical happens. You start to see through the lies. When you are marked by God, you begin to notice things you never saw before. The world that once seemed so certain, so clear-cut, now appears distorted, false, fabricated. You start questioning things you never questioned before. You start discerning things you never noticed before. And the more you seek truth, the more you realize how much deception surrounds you. The Bible warned us about this, for the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. 2 Timothy chapter 4:3-4. Look around, isn't this exactly what's happening? A world that rejects truth in favor of comfort. A world that silences those who dare to question. A world that elevates deception while condemning those who seek what is real. But what if you're different? What if God has given you eyes to see what others ignore? What if this hunger for truth is not just a phase, but a calling? And here's the part that might shake you. Once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. This is where many people turn back. Because knowing the truth, really knowing it, comes with accompaniment. It means confronting uncomfortable realities. It means standing alone when the crowd walks the other way. It means rejecting the easy path in favor of the narrow road. And it means surrendering to something bigger than yourself. This is why not everyone is marked. Many will feel the hunger, but few will follow it to its source. Few will be willing to trade their comfort for clarity. Few will have the courage to fully embrace what God is revealing. But if you've made it this far, if these words are resonating deep in your soul, then hear me when I say, you are different. God is calling you. This hunger for truth is not a burden. It is a gift. It is proof that He is drawing you towards something greater. And if you continue to seek Him, if you refuse to settle for half-truths and deception, He will reveal Himself to you in ways you never imagined. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29:13. So now, the question is, what will you do with this hunger? Will you ignore it, bury it, try to numb it with the distractions of the world? Or will you embrace it, chase it, follow it to the only source that can ever truly satisfy? Because let me tell you this, if you are marked by God, the hunger will not go away. No matter how much you try to push it aside, it will keep coming back. Stronger, louder, more relentless than before. Because you were never meant to live in the dark. And once you start walking toward the light, once you truly surrender to the truth, everything changes. This is only the beginning. If you felt this hunger for truth, drop 777 in the comments. Let the world know that you are waking up. If you've been seeing the signs, if Scripture has been speaking to you in a way it never has before, share it. Because you are not alone. You are marked, and the journey is just beginning. Must a conviction of sin when the light breaks through. The gentle nudge, a stirring you can't ignore. It doesn't happen all at once. At first, it's just a thought, a fleeting awareness that something feels off. The places you once felt at ease now seem different. The habits you once indulged in without hesitation now bring a lingering discomfort. The words you once spoke without a second thought now echo back with weight you hadn't noticed before. It's a shift that starts deep inside, almost imperceptible at first, but it grows. And then one day you realize you are not who you used to be. The Spirit of truth will guide you into all truth. John 16:13. This is more than just self-reflection. This is God pulling back the veil. 2. The awakening when you see what you used to overlook. Once your eyes are opened, you can't unsee it. The things you used to excuse as just the way life is no longer sit right with you. The entertainment you once consumed mindlessly now seems laced with messages you never noticed before. Conversations that once felt harmless now carry undertones that don't align with who you're becoming. But it's not just about the world around you. It's about you. You start seeing your own patterns, your own choices, the moments where you compromised without thinking twice. And suddenly, what once seemed harmless now feels like a barrier between you and something greater. Something inside you knows you can't stay the same. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as children of light. Ephesians 5:8. This isn't guilt. It's not about feeling unworthy. It's about realizing that you were never meant to stay in the places you once settled for. 3. The collision. When conviction becomes unavoidable, then comes the moment you can no longer run from it. You try to brush it off, to drown it out with distractions. You tell yourself, this is just my mind overanalyzing. But the more you resist, the more persistent it becomes. Because when God is calling you out of something, He won't let you stay comfortable in it. It's not condemnation. It's an invitation. An invitation to step out of what is temporary and step into what is eternal. An invitation to trade the weight of compromise for the lightness of truth. An invitation to finally be free. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. But here's the question. Will you answer the call? 4. The turning point. When conviction leads to transformation. This is the moment where many turn away because change is uncomfortable. Growth demands surrender, and surrender means letting go of what is familiar, even when you know it's no longer serving you. But what if what lies on the other side is something beyond what you have ever imagined? What if conviction isn't about loss, but about gaining something greater? Repent then and turn to God so that your sins may be wiped out, while and that times of refreshing may come from the Lord. Acts 3:19. Did you catch that? Refreshing. Conviction isn't about condemnation, it's about renewal. It's about stepping into a life where you no longer carry the weight of what used to hold you back. It's about freedom. 5. The crossroad. What will you do with this? So now you have a choice. You can dismiss this feeling, tell yourself it's nothing, and go back to life as usual. Or you can listen, you can lean into the stirring, you can allow God to continue the work He's already begun in you. Because here's the truth. Once God starts something in you, He never leaves it unfinished. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. Or Philippians 1:6. This is not the end. This is the beginning of something new. On. Made a changed heart. The undeniable work of God. 1. The first shift. A restlessness that won't go away. Have you ever looked at your life and thought, why do the things I once chased now feel empty? You used to believe success, pleasure, and recognition were the goals worth pursuing. You worked for them, dreamed about them, and built your life around them. But now, something feels different. The things that once excited you don't hold the same weight. The conversations that once entertained you now feel shallow. The desires that once consumed you now seem insignificant. It's as if something inside of you has begun to break away from the world you used to know. You can't explain it, but you feel it. A shift. A quiet pulling towards something greater. Something that cannot be satisfied by anything this world offers. But here's the real question. Where is this coming from? I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. Ezekiel 36:26. Could it be that what you're feeling is not just a phase, but a sign that God is working in you? 2. The deep work. When what mattered no longer matters, a changed heart is one of the clearest signs that God has marked your life. But here's what most people get wrong. It's not about trying harder. It's not about forcing yourself to be better. It's about God doing something in you that you could never do for yourself. The moment God marks your heart, everything begins to shift. You start to desire different things. The things that once consumed your time and energy, wealth, status, temporary pleasures, begin to lose their grip. Not because someone told you to let them go, but because they simply don't satisfy anymore. Your focus starts to change. You find yourself drawn to things that never used to interest you: faith, purpose, deeper meaning. Why? Because the heart that was once chasing the world is now being drawn towards something eternal. And then something even greater happens. You start to see people differently. The bitterness that once felt justified starts to fade. The resentment you held on to begins to loosen its grip. The grudges that once defined you now seem pointless. Because when God changes your heart, He softens it. 3. The battle. When the old you doesn't want to let go. But let's be honest, change isn't easy. Even when God is shifting your heart, there's a part of you that still clings to the familiar. You might feel the tension, the pull between who you used to be and who you're becoming. The world will tell you, you haven't really changed, you're still the same. The enemy will whisper, you'll never be good enough for God. And your own mind might even question, is this real or am I just imagining it? But here's the truth. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. 2 Corinthians 5:17. This is not just an emotional phase. This is not just personal growth. This is supernatural transformation. And no matter how much your old self tries to pull you back, it can't unwrite what God is doing in you. 4. The evidence. When others start to notice, here's something you might not expect. When God changes your heart, it won't just be you who notices. People around you will begin to see the difference, even if they don't fully understand it. They might ask, why don't you react the way you used to? They might wonder, why do you seem so at peace? They might even say, you're not the same person you were before. And they're right, because a heart that has been transformed by God cannot stay the same. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. Galatians 2:20. The evidence of a changed heart isn't in words. It's in the way you live, the way you love, and the way you walk in the truth. 5. The new desires, when you want more of God. And this is where everything starts to shift even deeper. It's not just that your old desires fade away, it's that new desires begin to take their place. You begin to crave holiness, not because you have to, but because you want to. You start to long for God's presence, not just in a crisis, but every single day. You begin to hunger for righteousness, not out of obligation, but because it fills you in a way nothing else ever has. What once tempted you now repels you. What once distracted you now feels like wasted time. What once defined you seems like a different life. Because when God changes your heart, He changes your desires. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37:4. But here's the most powerful part. As you begin to desire more of God, you begin to reflect more of Him. You care about what He cares about. You love like He loves. You forgive like He forgives. And slowly, without even realizing it, your heart starts to look like His. 6. The choice. Will you embrace the change? So now you have a decision to make. Because when God changes your heart, you can't go back. You can try to fit into the old places. You can try to chase the old desires. You can try to blend into the world that no longer satisfies you. But it won't work, because you are no longer who you used to be. So will you step forward? Will you embrace what God is doing in you? Or will you hold on to the things that can no longer hold you? You were bought at a price, therefore honor God with your body. 1 Corinthians 6:20. The choice is yours. Sign. A hunger for prayer. When communication with God becomes a lifeline. 1. The shift. When prayer becomes more than a ritual. Have you ever found yourself longing for something, but you weren't quite sure what it was? You try to fill the void with distractions, entertainment, work, relationships, but nothing quite satisfies. There's a quiet ache, a restlessness that lingers. And then one day, without even thinking about it, you whisper a prayer. Maybe it's just a simple thought, God, if you're real, show me. Maybe it's a sigh, a plea in the silence, a moment of honesty when no one else is listening. And something shifts. It's subtle at first, just a passing moment. But soon you start to notice it happening more often. You find yourself talking to God when you wake up in the morning. You find yourself thinking about Him in the quiet moments of your day. You find yourself craving time alone, not to be entertained, but to listen. Where did this come from? Why does it feel so different? Because when God marks you, He awakens a hunger inside you that only He can satisfy. Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. Jeremiah 33:3-2. The discomfort. When you realize prayer is hard, but you can't walk away. At first, prayer might feel strange. Maybe you don't know what to say. Maybe you feel like you're talking to the air. Maybe you wonder, is God even listening? You try, but your mind drifts. You start, but you feel unworthy. Why is it so hard? Even the disciples who walked with Jesus, who saw His miracles firsthand, struggled with this. They came to him and asked, "Lord, teach us to pray." Luke 11:1. They saw that Jesus' entire life was sustained by prayer, and yet they felt lost in it. But here's the thing, prayer was never meant to be about saying the right words. It's about coming to the right place, the presence of God. The more you seek Him, the more prayer stops feeling like an obligation and starts feeling like oxygen, something you can't live without. The deepening when prayer becomes the rhythm of your life. Think about Daniel. He was a man surrounded by a godless culture. He had power, influence, and the pressure to conform. But what set him apart? He prayed. Not just in times of crisis, not just when he needed something. 3 times a day, every day, no matter the cost. Even when it meant being thrown into a lion's den, he wouldn't stop. Why? Because prayer wasn't something he did. Prayer was who he was. And that's exactly what happens when God marks your life. At first, prayer is something you try. Then it becomes something you do, but eventually it becomes something you cannot live without. You find yourself praying in the middle of conversations, asking God for wisdom. You find yourself praying in moments of stress, seeking His peace. You find yourself waking up with prayer already on your lips, as if your soul has been speaking to Him all night. Because the more you pray, the more your heart begins to crave Him. As the deer longs for streams of water, so my soul longs for you, O God. Psalm 42:1-4. The power when prayer becomes more than just words. Something incredible happens when you truly embrace prayer. You start to see results, not always in the way you expect, not always on your timeline, but undeniably, God moves. Look at Elijah. He prayed and the rain stopped for 3.5 years. He prayed again and the rain returned. One man's prayer shifted the heavens. Look at Hannah. She wept before the Lord, pouring out her heart, and God gave her a son, Samuel, who would change the course of Israel's history. Look at Paul and Silas. They were beaten, thrown into prison, and chained like criminals. And what did they do? They prayed. And in the middle of the night, the earth shook, the chains broke, and the doors flung open. Do you see it? Prayer isn't just about speaking to God. It's about partnering with Him. And when you step into that, nothing stays the same. 5. The transformation. When prayer changes, not just your circumstances, but you. At first, we come to God because we want something. We want answers. We want direction. We want Him to fix things. But the more we pray, the more something shifts inside of us. We start wanting Him. Not just His blessings, not just His solutions. Him. We begin to see prayer for what it really is, not a transaction, but a relationship. And when that happens, we are never the same. Moses spent so much time in the presence of God that his face literally glowed, so much that people were afraid to look at him. Exodus 34:29. That's what happens when you truly meet with God. You carry His presence everywhere you go. You begin to think like Him, love like Him, live like Him, and suddenly, the world that once consumed you begins to fade, because you have found something greater. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. James 4:6. The invitation. Are you ready to step into a life of prayer? So here's the question. Is God stirring this hunger inside you? Do you feel the pull to pray not just when you need something, but because your soul longs for Him? If so, don't ignore it, because this hunger is not just random. It's a sign that God is marking you, a sign that He is calling you closer, a sign that He wants to reveal Himself to you in ways you've never experienced before. And the only way to step into that? Start praying. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be long. It just has to be real. Because when you truly step into a life of prayer, you will never be the same again. If you feel this hunger, if you know that God is calling you deeper, drop 787 in the comments. Declare that you are stepping into a life of prayer, that you are ready for more, that you will not settle for a life disconnected from the one who created you. Because this is the beginning of something powerful. And the more you pray, the more you will see Him move. Sign. A calling to serve, from brokenness to purpose. There was a time when life felt like a constant struggle. You lived for yourself, your dreams, your ambitions, your comfort. You fought for recognition, for security, for meaning. But no matter how much you achieved, something was always missing. The world told you that happiness would come through success, through status, through having more. But instead of fulfillment, you felt exhausted. Instead of purpose, you felt empty. Instead of peace, you felt lost. You tried to convince yourself that you were fine, but deep down you knew the truth. This isn't what life is supposed to be. And then something happened. You started feeling a pull, a quiet, persistent voice calling you towards something greater. It wasn't about taking more. It wasn't about achieving more. It was about giving more. And for the first time, you wondered, what if my life isn't about me at all? The awakening, when your heart begins to see differently. At first, it didn't make sense. Why did you suddenly care about things that never used to matter? Why did your heart break for people you once ignored? Why did you feel a deep need to help, to give, to serve? It wasn't something you chose. It was something God placed inside of you. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. 10 years. Mark 10:45. Look at Moses. He was raised in Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by luxury. But when he saw his people suffering, something inside of him changed. He could no longer live for himself. He had to step into something bigger. The same is happening to you. God is shifting your heart. God is opening your eyes. God is showing you that serving is not an obligation. It is your purpose. But let's be real. This calling isn't easy. Serving others costs something. It costs your time, your energy, your comfort. It means stepping out when you feel unqualified. It means giving when you feel empty. It means loving people who may never love you back. And that's terrifying. Even Moses hesitated. He told God, "Who am I that I should go?" Exodus 3:11. But God wasn't asking Moses to be ready. God was asking Moses to be willing. And the same is true for you. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to feel equipped. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to say yes. And here's the thing, the more you serve, the more you realize. It's not a burden, it's a gift. At first you step out in faith, unsure, hesitant, but then something beautiful happens. You see the face of someone who had lost hope light up. You hear the gratitude of someone who had nothing left overflow. You watch as God uses you to be an answer to someone's prayer. And suddenly, serving isn't something you have to do. It's something you can't imagine living without. Because in serving, you are not just changing others, you are being changed. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Proverbs 11:25, the calling, when God leads you into more. So now you have a choice. Do you ignore this calling? Do you go back to chasing things that never truly satisfied you? Or do you step into what God is leading you toward? Because here's the truth, you were created for more than just existing. You were created to serve, to love, to bring hope to a world that desperately needs it. And if you feel this stirring inside of you, don't ignore it. A peace that surpasses understanding when logic fails, but peace remains. 1. The past, when peace was just a myth. I used to think peace was an illusion, something people talked about but never truly experienced. I saw the world for what it was, chaotic, unpredictable, unforgiving. And I adapted. I learned how to control what I could, avoid what I couldn't, and numb what I didn't want to feel. Because if I didn't keep my guard up, who would? Peace, to me, was just another word for wishful thinking. People chased it in money, in relationships, in success. But no one ever really had it. Even those who seemed like they did. Deep down, they were just like the rest of us. Anxious, restless, always looking over their shoulder, waiting for the next storm to hit. So I stopped looking for peace. I focused on surviving, on staying ahead, on being prepared for whatever life threw at me. But no matter how much I controlled, how much I planned, how much I braced myself, the weight never lifted, the tension never left. And in my quietest moments, when the distractions faded and the noise settled, I had to face the question I had spent my whole life avoiding. What if peace is real? And what if I've been looking for it in all the wrong places? The awakening, when peace becomes more than an idea, it started slowly, not with some grand revelation, Not with a sudden wave of calm, just a shift. At first, I didn't recognize it. It was subtle, almost too small to notice. A moment of quiet that didn't feel empty, a situation that should have made me panic, but didn't. A moment of surrender that somehow felt like strength. And then the more I searched for truth, the more I realized peace isn't the absence of chaos. It's the presence of something greater than it. But what? What could be strong enough to anchor me when everything else was uncertain? I read about Jesus standing in a boat during a raging storm. His disciples were terrified, convinced they were about to die. And what was he doing? Sleeping. Not worried, not panicked, sleeping. Because he knew something they didn't. He knew the storm had no power over him. He knew fear didn't have the final say. He knew peace wasn't about circumstances, it was about who was in control of them. And when he stood and said, "Peace, be still," the storm obeyed. Mark chapter 4:39. That's when I started to wonder, was I wrong about peace? Was I wrong about everything? 3. The reality, when logic fails, but peace remains. Here's what I didn't expect. Finding peace didn't mean my problems disappeared. The world didn't suddenly become fair. Life didn't suddenly become predictable, but somehow I changed. The things that used to consume me didn't hold the same power. The fears that once controlled me started to lose their grip. The need to control everything, it faded. I couldn't explain it. Logically, nothing made sense. How could I still have peace when everything around me was uncertain? How could I feel calm when my mind was trained to expect the worst? How could I trust that things would be okay when I had no proof? But then I read this: do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians chapter 6-7. And it hit me. Peace isn't something you figure out. It's something you receive. It's not about knowing all the answers. It's not about eliminating every problem. It's about trusting that you are not the one holding your life together. 4. The transformation. When peace changes everything, that's when I realize this peace wasn't coming from me. Because if it was, it would have left the moment things got hard. This peace was bigger than me, stronger than my doubts, louder than my fears, greater than my circumstances. And suddenly I understood why so many people called it a gift. Because that's exactly what it was. Not earned, not achieved, simply given. And I had spent my whole life rejecting it. The more I let go, the more I trusted, the more I realized peace wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3-5. The choice, will you keep searching or will you finally rest? So now I have to ask you, are you tired of chasing peace only to watch it slip through your fingers? Are you exhausted from trying to hold everything together on your own? Have you spent your whole life searching for something that has been waiting for you all along? Because if you're anything like me, you don't need more explanations. You don't need another self-help strategy. You need peace, real peace. And if you've read this far, maybe, just maybe, God is trying to show you that it's time to stop running. It's time to let go. It's time to receive what He's been offering you all along. If you are ready to stop striving and start trusting, drop 777 in the comments. Declare that you are choosing peace, that you are letting go, that you are surrendering to the one who has been holding you all along. Because when you finally stop fighting for peace, you'll realize it was already yours. Sign, a deep desire to spread His word. When your voice becomes a beacon. The vision, what if you were born for this? There will come a moment, perhaps sooner than you expect, when you will feel an urgency rising within you. It won't be fear, it won't be anxiety, it will be a calling, a pull so strong, so undeniable, that you won't be able to ignore it. You will start to see the world differently. Faces that once blended into the crowd will stand out to you. Strangers will no longer be strangers, but souls. Some searching, some lost, some desperate for hope and not even realizing it. And then you'll hear it, the whisper in your spirit. Tell them, Tell them about the peace that no storm can shake. Tell them about the love that no sin can disqualify. Tell them about the truth that no lie can erase. You may hesitate. You may ask, why me? But deep down, you'll already know the answer. Because when God marks you, He calls you. And when He calls you, He gives you a message that the world is waiting to hear. 2. The shift, when speaking becomes an urge you can't contain. There was a time when you were silent, when you saw the brokenness around you but thought, that's not my place. When you knew the truth but believed, someone else will say it. When you felt the weight of people's struggles but assumed, I have nothing to offer. But now something has changed. What once felt like an obligation now feels like a mission. What once seemed like someone else's job now burns inside of you, and you start to wonder, what if the people around you are waiting for a word that only you can deliver? What if the conversations you've been avoiding are the very ones that will change someone's life? What if someone's eternity hinges on your willingness to speak? It's no longer about waiting for the perfect moment, because the moment is now. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. Mark 16:15-3. The power when the words aren't yours but His. You might feel unqualified. You might think, who am I to speak? You might tell yourself, I don't know enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. But look at Moses, a man who stuttered, a man who doubted, a man who told God, please send someone else. Exodus 4:13. Yet God said, I will be with your mouth and teach you what to say. Exodus 4:12. This is what happens when God marks you. The words won't come from your wisdom. The strength won't come from your ability. The courage won't come from your confidence. It will come from Him. And the moment you open your mouth, the moment you step out in faith, the moment you declare truth in a world drowning in deception, chains will break, hearts will open, lives will be changed. Because when God sends you, He speaks through you for the mission when the fire won't go out. There will come a day when you look back and realize you were made for this. You will see the faces of those who found hope because you spoke. You will hear the stories of those who found Christ because you didn't stay silent. You will know without a doubt that your voice was never wasted. The words you plant today will grow in places you may never see. The truth you share now will echo in hearts for generations to come. And when you stand before God, you will hear Him say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Matthew 25:23. That moment will come. But today, you have a choice. 5. The challenge. What will you do with this calling? You have felt the stirring. You have sensed the urgency. You know deep down that this is not just a nice idea. This is a divine assignment. So what will you do with it? Will you push it aside, hoping someone else will step in? Or will you rise up, knowing that God has chosen you for this moment? Because here's the truth. Someone is waiting for your voice, not someone else's, not someday. Now, there will come a day when you look back at your life and realize you are not the same person you used to be. Not because of self-improvement, not because of willpower, but because God has marked you. And when God marks you, the change is undeniable. Your desires shift, your thoughts transform, your spirit awakens. What once satisfied you no longer holds value. What once seemed important now feels trivial. What once felt impossible now becomes inevitable. Because when God touches your life, He does not do partial work. He rewrites your story. If you have experienced these 7 signs, it is because God has chosen you. A desire for truth, you no longer accept lies. You crave what is real, what is eternal, what comes from Him. Conviction of sin, the things that once felt normal now weigh on you. You cannot remain the same. A changed heart. Your old ways are gone. Your desires align with God's. You are being made new. A hunger for prayer. Prayer is no longer a ritual. It is your lifeline, your connection, your source of strength. A calling to serve. You no longer live for yourself. You feel a deep urge to give, to help, to pour into others. A peace that surpasses understanding. Storms rage, but you are steady. Fear knocks, but you do not answer. A deep desire to spread His word. You cannot stay silent. You know people need to hear what has changed your life. These are not coincidences. These are not random moments of inspiration. These are signs that God has marked you. And once He marks you, there is no turning back. Have you noticed it? The way you see people, it's different now. The way you respond to trials, it's not the same. The way you think about your purpose, it has completely changed. You used to chase things that didn't last. You used to live for things that didn't matter. You used to follow a path that led to nowhere. But now you see the world through His eyes. The lost are not just lost. They are waiting. The broken are not just broken. They are searching. The time is not just time. It is running out. And deep inside, you know, you were not marked to remain silent. You were marked to make a difference. So here's the question. Now that you know, what will you do? Now that you see, will you pretend you don't? Because there are only two choices. You either step forward into your calling, or you ignore it and pretend you were never chosen. But let me tell you this. Once God marks you, you can never go back to who you used to be. You will feel the pull when you try to stay silent. You will sense the urgency when you try to delay. You will hear His voice calling you forward even when you try to run. So why fight it? Why resist? This is your moment. You may think this is just about you, but it's not. The transformation happening in you is meant to impact others. There will be people who find faith because of your story. There will be lives that change because you spoke. There will be destinies rewritten because you chose to obey. You are not just walking into your purpose. You are unlocking the purposes of those around you. You are stepping into something far greater than you realize. If you feel this shift, if you know deep down that God has been working in you, you are not alone. There are thousands, millions who are feeling the same calling, who are waking up, who are stepping forward. Drop 777 in the comments if you know God has marked you. Drop amen if you believe the blessings of God are already on your life. Drop 99 if you are ready to step into your divine assignment. This is not just a message. This is confirmation. And if you are here, if you are reading this, it is because God is calling you. This is your moment. This is your time. Mark my words. If you say yes to this calling, your life will never be the same again. You will see God move in ways you never imagined. You will walk in favor that cannot be explained. You will experience doors opening that you never thought possible, and you will look back and realize this was the moment everything changed. So say yes, step forward, answer the call, because you are not here by accident. Like this message. Comment 777 to confirm it. Share it so others can step into their destiny. Because once you are marked by God, you will never be the same again. The moment everything changed, from doubt to destiny. 1. The search. When nothing made sense, I didn't always believe. I wanted to. I wanted to believe that life had meaning, that my struggles had a purpose, that there was something more beyond the endless cycle of disappointments, fears, and unanswered questions. But wanting to believe and actually believing, those are two very different things. So I searched. I searched for meaning and success, thinking that if I achieved enough, I would finally feel fulfilled. I searched for peace in people, thinking that if I found the right relationships, the right approval, I would finally feel whole. I searched for purpose in distractions, thinking that if I stayed busy enough, I could silence the emptiness inside. But no matter how far I ran, no matter how much I tried to control my life, the ache remained. That lingering thought in the back of my mind, that quiet whisper in my soul, there has to be more than this. Maybe you felt it too, that unshakable feeling that you were meant for more, that longing for something greater, something real, something that won't fade away the moment life gets hard. But where do you find it? How do you know what's real? How do you trust when you've spent your whole life guarding your heart against disappointment? I didn't have the answers, but then something happened. The awakening. When everything started to shift, I don't know the exact moment it started. Maybe it was the night I sat in my car, staring at the city lights, wondering if anyone would notice if I disappeared. Maybe it was the moment I realized that no matter how much I succeeded, I still felt like I was failing. Maybe it was the day I heard someone say, "You were created for more." Something cracked inside of me. For the first time, I wasn't just asking if there was more to life. I was asking God if He was real. And let me tell you, when you ask God to reveal Himself, He does. Not always in the way you expect, not always with flashing lights and audible voices, but in a way that you cannot deny. I started seeing signs everywhere, not coincidences, confirmations, not vague feelings, clear direction. And the biggest shift? I started changing. The things I used to chase didn't matter as much. The things I used to fear didn't control me like before. The things I used to question started making sense. It wasn't overnight, it wasn't easy, but for the first time I felt like I was walking towards something real. 3. The encounter when God made it clear. One night I reached my breaking point. I was tired of searching, tired of striving, tired of feeling like I was always one step away from where I was supposed to be. So I did something I had never done before. I prayed. Not the kind of prayer that sounds polished and religious. Not the kind of prayer that you whisper when you're desperate for a quick fix. A real prayer. A raw prayer. God, if you're real, if you're actually there, show me, because I can't do this anymore. And in that moment, something happened. I didn't see angels. I didn't hear an audible voice, but I felt something, a peace that I couldn't explain. A warmth that wrapped around me like I wasn't alone. A quiet whisper in my soul that said, I have always been here. And in that moment, I knew God was real. He had been waiting for me all along. 4. The call, when you realize you were never meant to live small. From that night forward, my life didn't magically become perfect. I still had struggles. I still had questions. I still had moments of doubt. But there was one thing I no longer had, the feeling that I was alone. God wasn't just an idea anymore. He wasn't just a distant force watching from above. He was with me, and that changed everything. I began to see the 7 signs of being marked by God unfold in my life. A desire for truth. I stopped settling for lies and started seeking real wisdom. Conviction of sin. I couldn't ignore the things that were holding me back from Him. A changed heart. The things I used to love lost their grip on me. A hunger for prayer. Talking to God wasn't a duty, it became a lifeline. A calling to serve. I started caring about people in a way I never had before. A peace that surpasses understanding. Even when life was uncertain, I was steady. A deep desire to spread His word. I couldn't stay silent about what He had done in me. And then, I understood. I had been marked for something greater. I had spent my whole life searching for my purpose, but all along my purpose had been searching for me. And maybe, just maybe, it's been searching for you too. The invitation. What will you do now? I don't know where you are in your journey. Maybe you're just like I was, searching, doubting, wondering if any of this is real. Maybe you've felt the stirrings but haven't been sure what to do with them. Maybe you're standing at the edge, knowing God is calling you, but afraid to take the next step. If that's you, hear me when I say this. You were not meant to stay where you are. You were created for more. You were chosen for something greater. You are being called into a life that is bigger than your fears, bigger than your doubts, bigger than anything you've ever imagined. So what will you do? Will you ignore the signs? Will you brush off the feeling? Or will you take the first step into the life God has been waiting to give you?